Live from Sturbridge, Massachusetts, it's Green Rush Live, the regularly scheduled business of cannabis talk show on Pro Cannabis Media. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media, and this must be the week for growing on PCM TV. Why? We launched Calling All Growers with Liz Grow this week, and that show will be repeated and live streamed after this show is over. We know we have a pretty good following on Friday afternoons for our regularly scheduled Business of Cannabis talk show, where we've talked to many of the biggest names in the cannabis business, but this time we're focusing on how to grow and the growers who grow the best cannabis in the United States of America. They're right here. They're right on the other side of this wall. Unbelievable people that are here, all the way from Humboldt, California, the Emerald Triangle, to Western Massachusetts to share what they've learned over decades and decades and generations of growing this magical plant. So don't go away. We've got some great interviews coming up next. Meet Caduceus Science, the alternative wellness company. You know CBD, but how about CBG, CBN? That's right, Caduceus Science produces a range of full-spectrum products, all lab-tested in small batches to maintain the highest quality of products. CaduceusScience.com. Welcome back to Green Rush Live at the Sturbridge, Massachusetts Conference Center. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media, and you'll never guess who I found at a growing conference. It's not a contest. You can wave. It's okay. You know, Ben Morgan Dillon from Acadia Farms in Rehoboth is here, but he also brings his mentor along, and your name is Chris Trump, isn't it?
That is my name. Yep, that's me all my life.
So I'm just going to go out on a limb here thinking the last few years have been a challenge for you with that last name?
I've been fine, but it is interesting, like paying with a credit card or something like that. It's like dropping a grenade and does it blow up red or blue, you know? What kind of reaction am I going to get? So, and everybody thinks they have an original joke, so that's really exciting.
Then I won't make an original joke, okay? And I won't make fun because you didn't have that choice when you were born. It was your family name.
This is true.
And you're no relation.
No relation.
That's all I care about because I am from Massachusetts. I mean, come on, right? All right. Now let's talk about growing. And I'm going to start with my friend Ben here because if it wasn't for Ben, I wouldn't have met Wendy and James. Oh, look at this. He is a pro. I love that. I wouldn't have met Wendy and James. I wouldn't be at a growing conference because everybody knows I have a black thumb. I don't want to go anywhere near anything that I have to water or grow because for the most part, I've killed everything that I brought in the house to grow. Okay? Sorry. I have kept a hibiscus plant alive for about 3 years. So, but then when I had to put it down when we moved, it was really traumatic. And I bet you can relate to that, both of you guys, because
Things were really easy for me.
Ben, you said something interesting just a few minutes ago before we started recording, which is always happens. There's so much information to learn about growing, right? It's not just sun, dirt, water.
It's simple science, but at the same time, when you get deeper into the levels, it's like an onion. Every time you peel it back, there's just more layers to it. There's incredible complexity, and especially when I started learning Korean natural farming from Chris, it took my understanding to another level. And I thought that I had, peeled back all the layers, so to speak, and there was just so much more there for me to learn. And it's been a wonderful experience, both, personally with my plants and also professionally with people.
That's great, and you did a great job this morning, even though I only saw the last few minutes. But I know how good you are, so I didn't need to have that reinforced.
He did a great job.
Now, well, the other thing, before I get to you, Chris, is he your mentor?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I first learned about Korean natural farming and even went to an organic conference or a regen conference because I heard about Chris Trump on a podcast, and it really connected with me listening to what he had to say, and I like to understand things, and I was so confused. I had so many questions just from that one podcast. I was like, I have to see him speak. And then he actually came out to the East Coast to the Regen Conference in Maine, and it was the most confounding weekend I've ever had. It just blew my mind. I left with my head spinning and immediately went and got my hands in the dirt. And then as soon as he came back and did a his first 5-day class out in Connecticut. I was there for that, and then I just got my soil smith certification with him in Tennessee, and it's been an amazing trip with him. It's been an amazing experience, and I can't wait to see where Korean natural farming continues to take us.
Korean natural farming, I'll admit, this is the first time I've heard that term. Can you define that for me?
Yeah, I mean, we in the U.S. is the only place we say Korean in front of natural farming. So in Thailand, in India, all over the world, they just say natural farming. So we like to, I don't know why, but it's catchy here. I think it's because it's 3 letters, and we KNF, and we do all our like airports in 3 letters. I don't know, but you know, it's.
Humans like to take shortcuts, cut to the chase, because it's really what it comes down to. And when you get into all these cannabinoids with all these funky names in it,
Right.
it can confuse you and blow your mind. But here's a compliment for you. Total stranger walked up to me and said, I just love Chris. He is a teacher. I feel like I just went to a college or a doctorate class. You simplify things and you put it into perspective that people can understand. That's a skill, Chris.
Thank you very much. I enjoy teaching. I enjoy watching the outcome, the fruit, if you will, of concepts growing in people. You know, I've been away from personally farming for a little over 3 years now, maybe going on 4, and I miss it, but I also like the saving grace is I'm watching things grow in people, and that's pretty special. So yeah, it's fun.
The proud daddy of all those little plants and all those farmers out there. I think that's fantastic. Natural farming. Ben is passionate about it. You're passionate about it. We as a world understand that we've done a great job of screwing up our environment pretty well here, right? I think we can all agree on that, right?
Some of us understand that.
Those who are in the know, how's that? Those who care enough to know, understand that. All right, fair enough. So I guess the obvious question is, what's the difference between naturally grown cannabis and non-naturally grown cannabis?
Personally, to me, I'm a terp farmer. When it comes to cannabis cultivation, cannabinoids are amazing, but they're a secondary interest to me. Terpenes and terpene complexity is really what I geek out on. And in my own anecdotal experience, and to some extent now coming in, data that can be tested and shown, living soils have the highest and most complex terpene profiles. They've got the most synergy between them. And then when you take that the extra step and you bring KNF into it, or just natural farming practices in general, I feel you give everything that little extra boost of love that it needs to really achieve its pinnacle. And I mean, personally, my favorite flowers are almost always natural farmed.
That's great. Now, you said that was a good question. I take that as a compliment. Tell me your answer to what I just asked Ben about, what is the differences as far as natural farming versus non-natural farming, and as it relates to cannabis?
Yeah. The plant is a medicine. I mean, ultimately, this is what we're talking about. If we're talking about its highest and best use, is that this has a role in being a positive part of humanity, and that medicine, as far as its effect on our brain when it's expressing its full genetic potential, which is what the data is showing us, that these plants are able to express their genetic potential when they're able to access all these diverse minerals and produce complete biochemicals because of that, because of total nutrition in their root system. It's just like food. It hits our body in a way that is highly beneficial. It's more beneficial, and so I think that if we're talking about having this available for an epileptic child, or somebody that's dealing with cancer, or the sky's the limit as far as the ways that this can have an effect on people's actual lives and how their quality of life is, then yeah, if we're seeing evidence and data that this is the way to produce the best medicine, then we should go in that direction. And ultimately, you're going to have all types and people that use it for different purposes. But for me, I see that being a highest and best purpose. That it's that people are getting a quality of life increase from this medicine, and that's it's a touch of love from the farmer to the consumer.
It's why my little logo has a cannabis leaf. You've seen it. It's a whole new world of weed logo. Not that logo. I have one. I'll share it with you. In fact, I don't think I have any T-shirts, but my signature's closing line. It's a whole new world of weed. Use it responsibly. It's a good message to share. And I do treat it like a medicine. I've had a medicine card since Massachusetts had their program in 2013. But it's a leaf wrapping itself around the world, because I really do believe in that vision that this plant was put on this earth for a reason. Not to be vilified, not to be stigmatized, but to be nurtured and loved and studied. And to me, that's where the future is. Now, of course, there's plenty of people out there who are only concerned about, well, does it get me high and can I get rich? Mm-hmm. Am I right? Am I wrong? Yeah. Right? So how challenging is it for you guys to continue to share your doctrine with plant scientists and farmers and that sort of thing?
Well, I mean, it's just you have to find out what connects with your audience. So if they're caring about, will it get me high and can I get rich? Well, the science shows that the profit margins can be there with natural farming techniques, as Chris has shown time and time again. As far as will it get you high, I mean, I've judged a lot of competitions, and I can promise you it will get you very, very nicely high. And it's actually a really great experience because terpenes are what synergistically work with cannabinoids. So the more terpenes you have, the more impact those cannabinoid profiles have. And then as far as, the people that just care about, it's just weed, man. Well, come here and try some of the just weed that you can have, and it's the best you'll ever compare.
Compare and contrast is always fun, right, guys? That's a good sesh.
I love the memes. I love the memes where, like, the guy's like, and it's like when that probiotic weed hits you like never before, and the guy's just all it gets you. So it's I think it is another thing for me. I think the one of the leading factors in deciding quality that I think is not all markets are looking at it as a deciding factor, but it's clean. That if you're tasting and experiencing a bunch of the nutrients that were used to grow it, that's not a pleasant effect, and that's something that I think is a huge gap between natural farming weed and most others.
We can't have overfed plants because we allow the plants to determine how much they feed.
Oh, absolutely.
We just provide the buffet to them.
Do the plants ever get munchies? I had to ask that question.
Philosophy question.
Chris, you've been around this space, and I'm talking about organic farming, right? There's more and more research being done on the powers of plant diets. I'm actually familiar with veganism, people who are vegan. I've lived with a few of them, and it takes incredible amount of discipline to be a vegan. But I've also seen the documentary that vegan food enhances athletic performance. It's an incredible documentary. It's worth watching. That being said, how do you get your knowledge and share it with those who are meat and potato guys like me?
Yeah, well, I mean, meat and potato is not all the same. There's you've had meat and then you've had meat. Potatoes are empty, and simple in their makeup, or they can be more complex. And so nutrient density, who Dan Kittredge is coming to speak tomorrow here, and I'm excited to talk with him because he is bringing forward this technology of the nutrient biometer, where we're going to take two pieces of steak and we're going to say, which one is actually making me healthy and strong? And we're going to take two potatoes and say, which one is packed with nutrients and which one isn't? And so this is data, And what we found over and over again in the studies that have been done so far is nutrient-dense food comes from living soil, or great farming, or where the diverse food is available to the plant. And so that then translates to flavors. I mean, you've had a strawberry from Costco before that was flavorless. Have you ever?
I love Costco. I'm never going to knock Costco.
Costco's fine, but from any store, you've bitten into a big, beautiful red strawberry, and it's like water.
Right.
And you're like, that looks amazing, but why doesn't it sweet? And then on the contrast, you've had this tiny, ugly-looking, bitty, kind of small strawberry from Grandma's garden, and it's like explosion of flavor in your mouth. And that difference is one had what it needed to be big, red, and water-filled NPK. It had the basic, maybe it's grown hydroponics or whatever. So it looks like it's everything it needs to be. Or, conversely with cannabis, big and frosty, but it's one-dimensional. It's got the THC, but there's no entourage effect or diverse biochemicals. And the same thing happens in strawberries. If a strawberry can access diverse minor minerals, it can produce those complex sugars we associate with flavor and smell and taste.
Yeah. Did you have a science background?
I have a degree in biblical studies, and
that's work. That you could step right into a professional job from that. I'm only kidding, of course.
I love reading peer-reviewed papers, so I am that nerd that has spent the last 10 years asking every question that comes along in my work. But no, I have a farming background and became a scientist from need, a need to understand and use solid science to inform my decision making, to form my questions, so I can come up with new answers that truthfully, what I teach and what I've learned, I couldn't have ever gone to school for in the U.S. There was no place that was teaching the application or applied microbiology, especially in the beneficial category. So, yeah.
Beneficial category. We know the benefits. Ben, Chris talked about technology. It's fascinating to me when I talk to lighting companies or extraction companies, and everything has technology attached to it. And it's so weird because agrarianism started in the beginning. We were all farmers first because we needed to get food and sustenance.
Farming was the first technology.
Right. That's deep. I like that. But now you can measure the soil quality. Now you can see what effects that soil quality has. You're big on the terpenes that kind of steer the intensity of the plant. Good way to look at the terpene?
Yeah, terpenes they're complex hydrocarbons, and their purpose is basically protection of the plant in essence. But they're also attractants and repellents for certain insects.
Aha. Learn something new every day. I didn't know that. That's interesting. All right. I bet you knew that.
I did. And cannabis is not the only thing with terpenes.
Oh, enlighten us.
Food has all the plants have terpenes.
Aha. Oh, actually, that's true. Limonene limonene, right? That's one. I knew one. All right. I also know what the entourage effect is too. By the way, you can drop that with me. I got it, man. I got it.
I'm learning. I've learned a lot about cannabis in the last 5 years from students. A lot of my students are cannabis farmers, and they're like, this is what it's doing for us, and this is how it works, and this is why it's cool. And I'm not ever been a grower. I might have dabbled a little bit in high school, but it was more like I knew how seeds work because my dad was a farmer. But I've learned a lot just from this community, and it's super interesting and similar to food, similar to a lot of the things these food farmers are experiencing.
It's a challenge no matter where you are, what time of year you are in, and whether you're indoor or outdoor. So I want to talk about the indoor versus outdoor subject here, if you will, because here in Massachusetts, one of those things that we've learned is 10% of the electrical grid has been taken up by indoor cannabis farms in this state. It has caused an issue. Wow. Is that the first time you've heard that?
Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot, right? So I've been talking about why don't we have some kind of an incentive for growers to be more solar powered, or at least green, to not take up as much electrical power. And you now that you understand that, does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, so I appreciate that, and at the same time, why do we need to not take up more electricity for growing? I mean, is that the thing to pursue? Is it? I love the idea of outdoor growing and incentivizing living soil. You know, I think absolutely, or even incentivizing learning about. I mean, if there was a program to kind of fund the further education of cannabis people into regenerative, I mean, something like this event could get subsidy for tickets, you know, where if somebody is a legal cannabis farmer can apply to learn about regenerative ways that could reduce their electrical grid use. Yeah, I think absolutely. But you know, is that an issue for the county or for the state? Is that a negative impact? Or I don't understand it enough to know if that's going to be an incentive. Maybe they like that people are spending more money on electricity.
As Ben says, it is a problem.
Yeah, I talked about this in my speech earlier, that we're actually, because of the excessive electricity use, the drain on the grid, it caused some disruption, and so the CCC put in place restrictions on kilowatts per square foot. But now, because of that, originally it was because people were all running HIDs. They were running high-intensity diodes that just pull electricity hard. But if you run with efficient ULC, DLC-rated LEDs now, you can actually, they'll play with you a little bit. They'll work with you on it, and you can get some really good PPFD readings at Canopy while still staying on a more sustainable path as far as energy consumption.
Oh, that's a great point. And, you know, you want, everybody's in this to make a living, right, guys? I mean, we all are. You want to be, when you show up, your time, you want to share your knowledge, you'd like to be compensated. In this industry, the drive at the biggest levels is to make money. I want to know, can you make money in organic farming, and compare that to versus non-organic farming if you were an investor? Do you mind handling that one?
Yeah, I'm happy to. And can I get a little soapboxy?
Yeah.
So,
wait. Do you know who you're talking to here? Okay.
So, all right. So, here's the problem. California just had like a economic collapse in the whole system of agriculture. I have a friend who's a farmer that he farms, I think, an 1,800 plant license in Oregon, and he grows mids for distillate.
Mids. Define mids.
Mid quality mids, cannabis communities. You know, we're not. It's not the premium. It's kind of like,
We used to call it smoking weed. Go ahead.
Whatever. Sure, it was, or you know, shake bammer or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
I
okay.
get you.
But that is his business plan. Now hear me out.
Yeah.
He grew 1,800 plants, pre-sold for distillate, sold in bags, the whole plant in a bag, and he grew that to completion and got paid with 30 man hours.
Wow.
30 man hours. So he is, to date, and anybody can argue with me or come up with another story, he is the highest paid per hour cannabis farmer I've ever met.
Wow. It's not Jim Belushi, right?
No.
Okay.
So his business plan is natural farming. He treats the soil, he puts the plants in, he turns the auto waterer on, and he does nothing basically until he harvests. He might make sure that the water's still going, and then he harvests, he whacks them, throws them in bags, it gets made into, but he's making a decent medicine. You know, doesn't have a bunch of chemicals on it, and he's happy about what he does. He drives long distance truck, so he doesn't have to tend to it all the time, and So the question isn't, can you? The financial questions are funny because it's like, well, what are you moving? What are your parameters? Because it's a triangle. It's time, production or money, and what's the third point of the triangle? No, time, quality. You're going to sacrifice one for the other, and so he's growing, lower quality, but he has all kinds of time to hang out with his kid, and he's making really good money, and so you can play with your business model and come up with something that works for you. And the cool thing is with natural farming, because you're spending very little on your inputs, if you're doing it right, you're not even spending that much time on making them. It can be there's a lot of ways to be a cannabis farmer, and I think that and the same thing goes with, we get paid $1.25 or $1 to $1.25 a pound for macadamia nuts. We have to have our efficiencies there, and so, and a lot of things in food. So I think in cannabis, now as it becomes more mainstream, the price is gonna come down. And
especially in Massachusetts.
And so people are going to need to learn this is movable. You can move your points. You don't have to do it the exact same way you already done it. And I think natural farming provides a solution for farmers and can afford them some freedoms.
That's nice. That's a great story about the guy in Oregon. As a Massachusetts farmer, what would you like to see changed here in the Bay State?
I mean, really, right now, the singularly most crucial thing for our local industry is the testing regulations and our limitation of OMRI products and limitation to only, specific essential oils, basically. So getting that changed and getting our testing protocols changed would be massive, because it is one of the greatest limitations when you're told that you have to produce a sterile product and you use indigenous microorganisms that are beneficial and absolutely non-damaging, and yet if you have any microbes present, you'll fail. It's very difficult for a lot of farmers that are growing naturally and otherwise.
And correct me if I'm wrong, the reason why the CCC put these regulations for testing at such a high level, if you will, is to make sure that the product was going to be pure, organic, or whatever, as clean as possible, right? So the intent was there.
The intent is correct.
Right.
The intent is absolutely correct. The issue is more with the execution. Right. The parameters are just too broad. There's no specificity in what they're testing for microbially, really. It's just general coliform units. So when you have everything accounted for, good and bad, it's really easy to tip that scale way too quick.
Gotcha. Hey, this was great. I learned so much from you guys in the last 20 minutes or so. I really appreciate you sharing your knowledge. It's fun to give back, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's some of the best things. I get to do some of this work in third world with farmers there, and I would prefer doing that. I mean, I love speaking here. I love having peers in the U.S., and at the same time, the effect that has in those communities, it's hard to beat.
Yeah. And I know you feel the same way.
100%. It's one of the first reasons that I fell in love with Chris's mentality was his drive for community and giving back, and the love. The love drives us. We're farmers, and we farm love at the end of the day.
Is that why Jamaicans go one love all the time? What do you think? I don't know, right? It's one love with the plant. We know that happens in Jamaica, right, guys? Ben, how do people find out about Acadia Farms? Give yourself a plug. Go ahead.
You can contact me at Benjamin and Acadia Farms on Instagram, or Acadia Farms Family on Instagram, as well as Acadia Farms Family on Facebook, and reach out anytime. Always happy to talk to people.
And make sure you know that's Acadia. He doesn't have a strong Boston accent. He didn't lose an R. There's no R in it. So it's very comfortable for that, right? Yeah. How do people get to you, Chris?
I have a website, christrump.com. I'm on Instagram at Soil Steward. There is a form on christrump.com if you want to reach out. I do consulting. I have 5 classes coming up. They're about to drop on my website, and I have an online class that if you can't get to it, I'm actually about to add 10 more hours of content to that, which I'll really feel like it's finally complete when I do. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, I will keep adding to it, but
We all do that, right? We all do that because we want it perfect. We want to continue to learn, right? We want to continue to learn. We want to continue to give back, right?
and YouTube, just search Chris Trump on YouTube. That's how a lot of people find me.
Well, I certainly won't search the other Trump, let me just say, okay? And that'll do it for Green Rush Live from Sturbridge, Massachusetts, this Friday afternoon for Ben Morgan Dillon and Chris Trump. I'm Jimmy Young. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Oh, hi. I'm Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media, and I was just watering our fake plants in the studio here outside of Boston. You see, when it comes to growing things, leave me out of it. I'll leave it to the experts. And we all know the real superstars of the cannabis industry are the growers. Well, there's a supernatural organic growers conference that's coming to Massachusetts here in early February. That's right. This coincides with our new growing initiative here at the network for the cannabis industry. You see, the new year of 2022 brings growth to Pro Cannabis Media, literally, and in our programming. Our new live show is called Calling All Growers with High Times TV personality Liz Grow and Skunk Magazine editor and Humboldt native Wendy Kornberg. That's right, that live show debuts Wednesday, February 9th here at the network. And amazingly enough, the conference for growers, the first one ever, bringing in people from Humboldt County and the Emerald Triangle all the way to the East Coast to Massachusetts, is in Sturbridge, February 11th, 12th, and 13th. And yes, Liz Grow and Wendy will both be at that conference as well. Some of the most well-known growers from Humboldt County in California head east for the first time with their stories and experiences from that Emerald Triangle. Massachusetts' own Acadia Farms' Ben Morgan Dillon will be one of the featured speakers at this year's conference at the Sturbridge Conference Center that Friday, 11th through the 13th at 8 a.m. So for more information, log on to organiccultivators.net for info and tickets. So grow with PCM TV and the Supernatural Conference, will you?
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Welcome to Calling All Growers. I'm your host, Liz Grow, and I am so thrilled to be here tonight and to be a part of this incredible program. Calling All Growers is all about the growers in the cannabis industry, the growers who are our superstars, our healers, our nurturers, the folks that, without these men and women, we would not have this incredible plant that's healing so many today. And so I'm over the moon because growers and cultivators are my favorite people to learn from. And so tonight I have with me as a very special guest and co-host, the expert master cultivator from Humboldt, second generation cannabis cultivator, Sunnabis, Full Sun Farms in Humboldt, Miss Wendy Kornberg. Wendy, thank you for co-hosting with me tonight.
Hi, Liz. Thanks so much for having me. This is amazing. I'm really, really honored to be here and really honored to be talking with somebody about cultivation since I've been doing this growing up, in the community and in the culture of cultivating. It's very cool to be experiencing this with you. So thank you.
Yeah. It's just for me, we could talk for the entire show, just you and I. I have so many questions about what it must have been like just to grow up with, as with cannabis cultivation as your family business. Could you just, humor me a little bit and tell me about what that's like as, coming from a woman from Texas?
Yeah. Growing up in Humboldt County in California in the 70s, 80s, 90s, it wasn't something, I think all children experience this, that whatever you're growing up and whatever you're doing, it's just part of the norm. So, the 1 acre garden that had fruit trees and tomatoes and cucumbers and some weed was nothing, nothing out of the norm. It was nothing, just another plant. It wasn't a big deal. And then it really was, when we got into the whole DARE program and they tried bringing that into our school. And that was, I think the police lasted like 2 days in our junior high before we started all laughing, because when it became this, marijuana is a very evil thing. And if you see people doing this, you should turn them in. And everybody's like, oh, we're done here. This is, you got to go. Like, that's not part of our culture at all. We don't turn people in. We don't rat on people. We take care of our own, and we're doing just fine over here. So, wasn't anything different. And then getting into college and finding out that like, oh, wow, people like, I think I showed up with a quarter pound to my friend's house at one point and they were like, I have never seen that much weed in my life. And I was like, oh, this is like nothing. So that was really where it started to become very obvious that like, I probably grew up a little bit differently than most people.
Oh my God, that is so incredible. And you grew up knowing the difference between good quality cannabis and, swag.
No, we didn't have swag. I had no idea what swag was till I got into college.
Wow. Oh my God, that's incredible. I am in Texas. I'm deep in the heart of Texas, behind enemy lines, working to advocate for marijuana policy reform here in Texas and make it so my fellow Texans can grow this beautiful plant, grow this medicine for their needs, and certainly get this medicine as an alternative to many, harmful prescription meds. But I am educating a group. I'm working to educate a group of people who, some of them truly believe that this is the devil's lettuce.
Yeah.
Okay. They truly believe that. And some folks are still hung up on the fact that if we allow more cannabis acceptance, then the kids will get it and they'll get it in their hands and they'll get sick. So obviously, you're coming from, the heart of, the cannabis culture and cannabis cultivation in this country. What would you tell those people and those parents specifically?
Yeah, the big thing in California, even when Proposition 64 was passing, there was a lot of pushback from the same, even though California, everybody thinks of it as this beautiful free state, we still have a lot of people that are very conservative with cannabis policy. Mm-hmm. And that was a big conversation. But what about the children? And my response has always been, what about the children? But what about them? What? It is a plant. And I understand once you're getting into concentrates and once you're getting into edibles, that can start to tread the line of you need to be more cautious. Don't leave a pan of pot brownies out on the counter. Your children will get them and they will eat them. I guarantee it. And it will be a very, very interesting, 6 to 24 to 48 hours. And it could possibly be dangerous. So be conscientious about it. But when it's a growing plant, it's literally just another plant. I grew up around the growing plants. My children grew up around the growing plants. They don't see it as anything different. And they show no interest in consuming it. It's not like my kids are out there trying to figure out how to get high. They're like, we don't really care. It's not that big of a deal. We've removed the taboo. It's not, honestly, I tried smoking a cigarette before I tried smoking cannabis, because there was more of a taboo about tobacco than there was about weed. So there's a really good personal reference but what about the children? Right. I also got drunk before I started smoking cannabis. Right. These are real conversations that people are still trapped in this whole ideology of reefer madness. And it's it's outdated. It's unrealistic. And when it comes to, that's just like personal story of children in cannabis. But even when it comes to regulation and policy, it becomes, you have to learn how to speak their language. You can't say like, well, weed isn't that bad. You have to be able to say like, well, we understand that, you see this as something very dangerous. And there's been a lot of propaganda about how dangerous cannabis is.
Mm-hmm.
But we also do know that it has amazing medical benefits. So let's not say weed for everybody, but let's say, what about cannabis for Susie who has epilepsy and has seizures? We know it can help
Right.
that. What about cannabis for people going through chemotherapy that aren't able to keep food down? What about, and you start opening the door and giving regulators and, policymakers and even, Jack and Jane next door who do believe in devil's lettuce and that it is evil. You give them something to step away from that gently, instead of just going full into like, hey, there's nothing wrong with this. Like, okay, we understand you're fearful. So what about making exceptions for people that this can really help? What about when we read these stories about these people that are alive today because of cannabis medicine? Can we make exceptions for these people? And then that can start to open their mind, and they can start to see that maybe this isn't as bad as I thought it was. And it can really change the conversation, and it can give your advocacy a whole platform to stand on that isn't as much of a fight. It's more of a gentle leading into, this isn't so bad. This isn't as bad as you thought it was.
Right. It's not like an alarm clock in your ear. It's more like one of those like sun, gradually the lights coming on and you're like, and then that it really does. I feel like, in the position that I am in here in Texas, being able to educate from such a dark place of reefer madness, I feel very fortunate to be able to do that. And, one of the reasons why I love hanging out with cultivators and learning from cultivators is because that really removes the stigma of the plant as well, because we get to take it to the science. We get to take it to the level of how this plant interacts with human beings. And so I'd love to talk about Sunnabis, the Full Sun Farms. You are the CEO and founder. I'm assuming this is your family farm. I'd love to hear more about your operation.
Yeah, so I'm a second generation cultivator from Humboldt County. That means that my parents cultivated. My dad also is a construction or a contractor. So he built tons of amazing houses and things. But, like I said, growing weed was always kind of there and in the background. And in 2016, our county, Humboldt County, put together the first medical marijuana ordinance in our state that was going to be for recreational. And it was, our county said, we're going to go ahead and, we know you guys are doing this, so we're going to let you do it legally and stop worrying about us coming and busting you.
Yeah.
And
nice. Thanks.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a really long process. It was years of them trying to figure out how to do it and us trying to figure out how to do it with them. And then 64 hit. And so then we had recreational cannabis, and then that changed the whole thing again. But during that whole time, the team was made up of myself, my partner, and my mother. She is still on the team. She still works with us. She cultivates. She's 72 years old. And I constantly say my mom is probably one of the hardest working team members. She helps us take care of the kids. She plants, she harvests, she helps trim, she helps do it all. And it's really kind of an amazing, every now and then I come out and I start talking to people like you in Texas that, there's not that many second generation, if any, cultivators. And if they are, they don't get to talk about it. So being able to be this representation of this multi-generation female cultivation team is a real honor and blessing, and quite a bit intimidating at times too, when people are like, people like look to this as an example. I'm like, oh my gosh. And honestly, it's a great example to be, because I love my mom. She's amazing. We get along super well. And there's no way I would have been able to do any of this without her.
Oh God, that's so beautiful.
More about my mom than the company, but yeah.
No, but that's a cannabis. We talk about the plant, but then we start talking about our connections to the plant and people, around it, and that's what life is about, right? Talk to me about, this is an organic Full Sun farm. Tell me what that means, like in layman's terms.
So we've always done organic cultivation. Growing up, that was just how you farmed, was you used manure and you used, dried amendments, and you used water. There was no part A, B, and C weird fertilizers. There was no hydroponics. There was none of that. It was just in the ground, native soil, native water, throw some amendments at it now and then you're good to go.
Uh-huh.
And, but then most recently, as of, I've actually lost track. It's maybe 5 or 6 years ago now, I started discovering Korean natural farming. And that really shifted. So we no longer say we are organic. We talk about being beyond organic. We talk about being beyond sustainable and actually into regenerative farming. And the first time I heard that term, I actually had to Google, because I went, what is regenerative farming? What's a regenerative farm? What does that even mean? And I looked it up.
Notes.
Yeah. Well, you can Google too. It works well. The very simple answer was regenerative farming is putting more back into the earth than you took out. And my immediate response to that was like, well, that's just farming. What? I don't understand. And I really had to think about, the middle of the States. And when you're driving through hours and hours and hours of nothing but cornfields, and then you drive through in the middle of winter and it's literally bare dirt. And I was like, oh, that's right. Traditional industrial agriculture is tillage, fertilizer, pesticide, herbicide, till, fertilize, pesticide, herbicide, kill, poison, death, and then try and grow something that's the only thing you want. And it's very much not at all the way that I think, or the way that we know for certain, a way that works. It is a way to produce a inferior food product. It is a way that we create giant dust bowls. It's a way that we're literally destroying our earth. We're killing by tilling, and it's really, really bad. So we're on the opposite spectrum. We utilize everything on our farm for our farm. So most of our inputs we make ourselves. We make our own fertilizers out of weeds. We make our own amendments out of, like, we have some chickens, we have rabbits. We are going to be looking towards getting other animal husbandry as we build the farm out. We have a pond that is a rainwater catchment pond, so we're not taking water out of the water table. And
beautiful rainwater.
It's amazing. It's really working with nature to create a product. And, we're doing pretty good. We're winning awards and things with our cannabis too. So people are like, well, you suffer in quality. I'm like, nope, you sure don't. And then people are like, well, you suffer in yield. I'm like, no, our yield is the same. It's the same as standard organic. And, I did delve into some indoor back in the day, and I tried hydroponic for a really short period of time and discovered it was way too difficult for me. Like, all the tinkering and, pH constantly. And I was just like, this is really hard, you guys. By hydroponic people. I'm like, whoa.
Like, why would you do that when you have the soil out here?
Exactly. I'm like, I get to put it in the ground, and then I get to hang out and take pictures of my feet and smell flowers. That's my farm. I'm good with that.
Oh my God. I want to come visit. How big is the farm?
We are a 160 acre ranch under cultivation. We only have 18,000 square feet currently, so a little under half an acre. We do have the option to go up to about an acre, which would include 20,000 square feet of a dry farm, which means that we would not irrigate it at all. But, for anybody who's been paying attention to the California cannabis market, it's a bit upside down. There's a lot of overproduction going on. So we're just walking slowly in that direction. And mostly I want to do it because I have never actually done dry farming before. I've been studying it for years, and now I'm just like, oh, I'm so ready to get it going. But I'm pretty sure it'd break my heart to produce this amazing cannabis and then not be able to sell it because we're, overproducing by like 20 million pounds or something ridiculous.
Oh God, it just hurts my soul as a Texan.
Right?
There's 20 million pounds of gorgeous Cali bud just sitting there.
I know. I'm like, we need to bring it to you guys. We need to
interstate commerce. Oh, but it will be amazing.
But honestly, you know what the real truth is? I would rather teach Texans how to do this. I would rather teach everybody. Like, I have a horrible business model. My business model is everybody grows their own, and I can't sell mine anymore.
Oh my God, I can't wait to hug you. I cannot wait to hug you, Wendy. That is absolutely it. That's the most beautiful thing. And that's the point and mission of this show, is about encouraging and inspiring people to grow their own and to ask the questions that they're afraid to ask and to just try it out. I'm going to grow my own for the first time. It's going to be hemp, and I'm so excited. And it may crash and burn, but that is okay. Because I feel like it's more about the experience sometimes than the actual yield. But listen, I know we have to go to break shortly, but I don't want to go to break before talking about this weekend, the Supernatural Organic Cultivators Conference in Sturbridge, Massachusetts. You're hosting, Wendy Kornberg. Talk to us about this conference.
Yeah, we basically put together a conference that we really wanted to bring to the East Coast, because I have a lot of people that reach out and they're like, oh, I wish I could learn from you, but I am way over here. And originally we were thinking about keeping it on the West Coast. And eventually we just went, we need to be over here. We need to be where things are really kind of coming to fruition quickly. And we want to encourage people to get ahead of the ball before the ball gets ahead of them. And so we put together a 3-day workshop. My partner, James Buer, is really the mastermind behind all of the, the programming and getting a lot of our speakers. I reached out to some of our speakers, but he reached out to, for example, Dan Kittredge, who runs the Bionutrient Food Association. And the really cool thing about our conference that's very different is it's meant for farming and cannabis. So it's not exclusive to one or the other. It's not just about weed. And what we really see the future of this coming to is that cannabis is just going to be another crop like everything else. And hopefully it's going to stay a little bit higher priced so that the small farmers that are struggling with their food crops can have this as an additional income source. And then the smaller or larger farmers that are just cannabis can add food onto their farms as well. So we're trying to kind of bridge this gap of food and medicine and show people that, what works for one may not necessarily work for the other, but there's an underlying ideology that works together with all of it. And it really does come down to the opposite of industrial agriculture. It comes down to regenerative. It comes down to polycrops, poly planting, right? That's not the word. Somebody will correct me.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, the comments are open.
Monocrops, right?
Yeah,
Opposite of monocrop.
Right, right. Yeah, yes. Well, I'm not even going to go there. Okay, because I know that we have to take a break, but thank you for giving us that intro. When we come back, I do want to talk more about the agenda of the conference and really what attendees can expect to learn. And we'll have a guest with us, a new guest, Mr. Benjamin Morgan Dillon, founder of Acadia Farms, will be with us. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this message from our generous sponsors.
Hey, you want to grow your own plants? Check out Style Lighting's Grow Kit. It has everything you need to become an expert home grower and bring the power of the sun indoors. Style Lighting uses TCP's high-powered commercial LEDs that deliver twice the output in the market. The Grow Kit has a grow bag, a timer, chains to hang the light, and of course the best in the business lighting system by TCP. Check out stylelighting.shop for more information.
Hi, my name's Tai Chang. I'm the president and founder of Aloha Green Apothecary in Hawaii. We're a vertically integrated medical cannabis company with 3 dispensaries, 1 extraction lab, and 1 cultivation center near the North Shore of Oahu. We have over 150 employees now, and we've been working with Adaptive HR to meet our human resource needs. We're super excited to work with them as we expand, and we've grown at least 2-3 times over the last 2 years. So we look forward to a good relationship with Adaptive, and come visit us in Hawaii anytime. Aloha.
Hi, my name is Janice O'Reilly. I'm a partner with AAF CPAs, a national CPA firm that specializes in cannabis. We're based out of Boston. We have been working with Adaptive HR for several years and have recommended them to our clients, who have all been extremely happy with their service and their responsiveness.
Calling All Growers with Liz Grow is supported by the Grow Kit from stylelighting.shop, Adaptive HR, built for your cannabis business, Revolutionary Clinics, where the patient comes first, by Accounting Buds, your accountant in cannabis, and by Salient Video Surveillance Systems for today and tomorrow's security. Want to learn from the best growers? Sign up for our Growers webinar in exactly 2 weeks. Go to procannabismedia.com and sign up today.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Calling All Growers, and I'm your host, Liz Grow. And here we are back for our second segment of the show. We've been talking to Wendy Kornberg of Sunnabis Full Sun Farms, Humboldt Farms. And now we're back with Ben Morgan Dillon. We're so excited to have Ben Morgan Dillon with us. He's a sustainability and green facilities consultant and a regenerative farming expert and educator who will be a key speaker at the Supernatural Organic Cultivators Conference. So welcome, Ben. So great to have you join us.
Thanks, Liz. It's a pleasure to be here. I really enjoy what I do, and I enjoy getting to talk to people about it. And it's beautiful when you get to bring the things that you enjoy together.
Incredible. Yeah. So I want to start, Wendy and I were talking about the whys, the whys of you going beyond organic farming techniques and practices to regenerative. It sounds as if her family was started in that space. Did you yourself start with the organic and regenerative growing practices, or did you move into those practices?
No, I'm a convert. Well, with cannabis, I'm a convert. I grew up on a farm, and my grandmother had a green thumb, taught me a lot about, just growing herbs and flowers. All when I was a little kid, I spent a lot of time with her in the garden, and it was something I really enjoyed. But when I started growing cannabis, there really wasn't any information available, especially on the East Coast at that point. So you went to a grocery store and you asked them for help, and they gave you cocoa and chems. And it worked for me for a long time. I worked my way through a huge number of different product lines and spent, I don't even want to think about how many thousands of dollars on it. But I finally worked my way over, just because I'd always been a grower outside as far as vegetables, and we'd always grown organically on the farm. We had animals, we used compost and manures. And I don't know why it took so many years, but I just had this concept that cannabis was different and that you had to use these specially formulated chemicals that were exactly what the plant needs to get what you want out of it. I tried a handful of times that I just grew like a handful of seeds in mediocre soil, and the results were mediocre. So I decided, they must know what they're talking about. And then I finally went to the Regen conference, and I met Wendy, and I met Chris Trump and a handful of other incredible people like Leighton Morrison. And I left completely just dumbstruck. It totally changed my approach to cannabis and cultivation in general. And now I've had the wonderful journey of going down the rabbit hole with these people, and had the honor of now being a teacher alongside them.
Wow. That's an incredible story. So what are the techniques that you get most excited about opening people's eyes to, opening other growers' eyes to?
Regenerative agriculture in general is it's pretty unique in its approach as far as what most people are used to with conventional ag or just conventional growing methods. Mm-hmm. The one that I really enjoy the most, though, it's Korean natural farming, and it's really what brought the inner geek out of me a little bit more. And just getting people to be able to taste, touch, smell, and enjoy different preparations that you make for plants. Yes. I love breaking down those concepts. FAA it's still to this day boggles my mind, but it's incredible. And so that's one of the things that I really enjoy and get most excited about, is the way that you can turn something that would be considered waste or byproduct into a very, very fruitful and productive system of fertilizing your soil and feeding your microbes and feeding your plants through the nutrient cycle.
And real quick, just because Ben, you blew through some acronyms there, and what I found is that a lot of people are like, I don't know what FFA, FFJ, what? So FAA, what he's talking about is fish amino acid, and it's using fish scraps and brown sugar and microbiology to create a plant nutrient that's high in nitrogen. And when he's talking also, you mentioned it really briefly at the beginning, but this is all for human health too. So I also practice Korean natural farming, and all the inputs we make for fertilizer, we can also ingest them in our own bodies, and most of us frequently do. And it's a way for human health also to bloom and blossom the way that our plant health does. So it's one of the coolest things ever.
Okay, I got to hear more about this. So give me an example of that. What input would you yourself ingest, and then would you give your plants?
Perfect example would be dinner that I'm going to be cooking in a little bit, which is going to be using rice, and I'm going to be making the rice with some FPJ, which is fermented plant juice. Specifically, this one is from aloe. And I find that it adds a really, really nice savory flavor to the meal, and it's delicious in itself. But I mean, FPJs in general often come out slightly like vinaigrettes. I use them actually pretty often on salads. I love ginger FPJ. Love cooking with that. I'm probably going to make some Thai food pretty soon with that. And then the general one, just for overall health, sort of an immuno booster, would be Oriental Herbal Nutrient, which is OHN, which is just a combination of a handful of things like angelica root, cinnamon, ginger, garlic, all things that naturally already have immuno-boosting capacity, and just sort of help cleanse you out, keep you healthy and healthy, keep your microbiome in check.
Okay. I love that. I absolutely love that. And it makes so much sense, when you think about it. I can understand how people are clinging to maybe the practices that they learned about, in magazines, and believe in, nutrients that you could buy at the store to get big yields. But it seems to be distancing ourselves from nature, doesn't it? When we incorporate chemicals and different, I guess, inputs into our soil, because soil's not an input. I'm sorry. I am, the reason I'm the host of Calling All Growers is because I might be the dumbest grower out there. Just the newest, I have all the questions, but inputs
no question is a bad question.
Thank you. And that's why I'm coming to the Supernatural Organic Cultivators Conference this weekend to learn. I'm going to have my notebook. I'm going to be just like recording everyone, talking to all of you, and just learning. So rather than ask just kind of a silly question, let me ask this, Ben. What are you most excited to present about at the conference this weekend?
So I've been diligently working on my presentation, and I think that I've really dialed it in pretty well, and I'm excited to present it to everybody. And it's gonna have some hot button topics in it, and it's gonna center basically around the concept of integrating regenerative and sustainable practices in cannabis cultivation, but also specifically indoors. A lot of people, when you tell them you're going to grow cannabis, you're going to grow it indoors, and you're going to do it organic, they already have a little bit of a hard time following you. And then you tell them that you're going to do it regeneratively, and they're completely lost. They think that it's all just going to be complete woo-woo. And I mean, really, there's solid science that backs it. And a lot of it actually comes down to just properly utilizing the environment that you're being given, preferably being able to do ground up construction where you can actually tailor the facility and everything that needs to be in that facility towards cultivation and towards the style of cultivation that you're going to be doing. You really need to be able to take into account all those factors. So I'm really excited to show how lean operations and facility design really are two of the most integral parts of a cultivation facility, and making it, really successful and efficient.
Wow, that's incredible. So it's not just about growing techniques, cultivation techniques, but it's about facilities. And it just feels like some insider info. Wendy, what do you think about this presentation, about what Ben's talking about? Have you heard of it? Are you psyched for it?
I am. I'm actually really excited because Ben does have so much experience in this, and it is a really common struggle that when you get to, I consult mostly with greenhouse growers and outdoor cultivators, because the indoor guys, they still have a hard time figuring out. They're like, you can't do this that way. And I'm like, oh, you absolutely can. And, I have a few small samples of clients that have done it successfully, but having somebody like Ben that's able to come in and say, listen, if you can just let me help you start by building it out the right way, it's easier. Usually I'm coming in when it's like, we need help. And I'm like, okay, we need to kind of figure out how to revamp this and how to do this, completely differently. And it's a much slower process. So the more information that Ben can get out there to people to give them inspiration to get started the right way, it's just exponentially faster growth curve and an exponentially faster success rate than, when things have already fallen apart and everything's on fire and you're trying to, put out the fire with one blanket and a water wand.
Oh, sounds like you've been there, Wendy.
Which is still, still possible. We still do that too. Like anything's fixable.
Yeah, truly. Wow. It really is fascinating to think about regenerative growing cultivation indoors. So that's something that I'm excited to like dive more into. But again, we were talking a bit about the why. Why would anyone even consider going down this road when there are, ostensibly there are tried and true practices, there's bro science, there's all the nutrients. There's everything that we need to get what we want and get the perps, Tell me why regenerative?
Yeah. So really for me, it comes down to, I want to put back into the system more than I take out, whether that's a plant system, whether that's my community, my family. I feel that it's sort of, it's a responsibility as humans, that we should improve the environments that we live in.
Mhm.
And one of the ways that I can do that is to help to minimize the environmental and ecological impacts that cannabis cultivation has. Unfortunately, the green industry is one of the dirtiest and most polluting. We are an industry full of turn and burn techniques. We've got a huge amount of waste that we produce, and the nutrients that we use, though highly effective in proper application, are mined minerals. They're things that are stripped from the land, and there's a huge amount of waste that goes along with the processes of creating and transporting them.
Mm.
So the why that I really focus on is just the way that I can touch one group of people and have a large ripple effect across the world, where if I'm able to help clean up one of the dirtiest industries, as far as specifically agriculture, then I'm able to have a much larger impact than if I were to attack something like that already has a substantial amount of work put into it, or is just a cleaner industry to start with.
Right.
So that's one of the main reasons why I do what I do, is that I want to improve the industry that I really believe in and provide better knowledge of ways to do things than I knew myself. And I mean, really, I've just had amazing mentors and teachers, Wendy being one of them, that have really been able to, like she said, skip that huge learning curve. I spent over a decade, like 16 years, learning and researching and trying to find solid data. And then within the past 5 years, it just eclipsed all of the time that I spent in the previous decade. It's all because of finding the right teachers with science-backed information that you can actually utilize. That is, it's tried and true, yes, but it's legitimately clinically tested. It's data that you can replicate.
That's incredible. That's so incredible. And that's not something that you hear a lot in, certainly in cannabis cultivation. I mean, and that you bring up, you reminded me of a great point, is that we are having a workshop in 2 weeks. Ben and Wendy, I think you're both going to be at that workshop. Yes. Okay, great. That's
might be well, I need the date again.
Okay.
I just got invited to be on a panel in Sunnabis, so
oh,
Barcelona.
Okay, well, I'll understand why you can't make it to the workshop, but it's an important, I think, time to plug these workshops, because this Calling All Growers series and show, it's not just about another kind of talking heads show and conversation about cannabis cultivation and techniques. It's about learning from the growers, learning from the experts. And so every month we're going to have a show like this that introduces techniques and new faces and new growers. And then in 2 weeks, we're going to have workshops with those growers. Those workshops will only be open to those people who have registered for the workshops. Typically, they're going to cost. Next month, the workshop will cost. This month, the workshop is free. We only ask that you register. And we'll have a special exclusive interview from Jim Belushi of Belushi Farms for that workshop. So it's definitely going to be a good one. So don't miss out. But I would love it if either one of you, both of you could pop in, because we're actually going to have growers who want to ask the questions, the hard questions, who are afraid, who are inspired, but maybe maybe they live on the other side of the country, and they don't know that they can accomplish what the two of you have with your lineage and with your resources. So.
And
workshops.
Just for clarification, Liz, these are live workshops, right? So these are
Yes.
the people, they're going to be able to go on, and it's closed circuit, so it's not going to be broadcast anywhere. So if you do live in a place where, like Texas, where you do maybe want to grow THC weed, but you really don't want anybody to know what you're doing, this is a great opportunity for you to pop in, get some questions answered, and still maintain your anonymity and not have to ask, finding people on Instagram and then being nervous about DMing and hoping we get back to you and don't miss it. So it's a really novel approach to being able to do a workshop online for people that might not have access to this information otherwise.
Oh God, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. It just made my heart sing when you called out Texas and those Texas growers, those Liberty Market growers that we have, because you better believe that we have some really strong product out there. But It's all Liberty Market. So we are about to go to break. But before we do, I just want to let everyone know that our next guests are not to be missed. Two, not just one, but two. We've got Kobe Guy and Patrick King. Kobe's the founder of Cellar Door Collective, which is an heirloom vegetable farm. And Patrick King is the soil king, basically. He's got 35 years in agriculture industry, from picks and shovels to licensed cannabis grows. So you don't want to miss our next guests. So during the break, you are going to meet my brand, my media brand, my show on High Times, and it's called Grow House. Grow House is a series that my husband and I have produced, and it's about my husband, Patrick. He's on camera too. And it's really all about two cannabis advocates and cannabis patients from Texas who have to go outside of our state to learn about the culture, to learn about the plant, and to bring that information back to our people and to our communities. So what you're about to see is when we got to visit Ascend Cannabis in Pueblo, Colorado. Theirs is an organic grow. And we got to learn from Scotty Embry. He is a master cultivator there and the founder of Ascend Cannabis. So that's what you're about to see. And if you want to see more about Grow House, you can find us on High Times TV. So see you when we're back.
I would like to sleep in this bed.
We have worms sleeping in this bed right now, too.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I take that back. Groovy, jazzy, funky, pounce, ounce, dance.
Children, gather round.
Let's go to Pueblo.
Where?
Sunny Pueblo, Colorado.
We got invited to go to Ascend Cannabis Company, to both their grow operation and their storefront, and we got to get up close and personal.
Ascend comes from wanting to do something different, to ascend above the standard and to really provide something different. We want to see the world really benefit from it.
So you dry in here, do you trim in here as well?
We dry in here, we trim in here.
Can we come work for you?
Yeah.
Could you imagine this is our job, just sifting? So your entire crop filters through this room.
Yep, every week we have plants coming down, fill it up, give it about 7 to 10 day dry time, and
it's just constant every day.
Demand is always there. So for us, we have to keep it perpetual. They're plants and they don't take holidays, weekends. They're here all the time, and we're farmers, so we follow their lead.
What room is this, Scotty?
This is our vegetative.
So what is tickling my thighs right now?
That would be me, maybe.
How many people do you estimate that this crop right here employs?
We're looking at 70, 80 employees right here. People are part of this. Look at the growth. I've seen cities change, but marijuana doesn't get enough credit. I'll give it the credit it deserves.
We will.
I salute all your babies.
Thank you, girls.
You're doing the goddess's work here.
Thank you, girls.
And you have a girl. She's one now. What's it going to be like for her?
I picture a company that stands the test of time, that stands in integrity, that does things differently, even when it's not easier for them.
Federal regulation requires that you stay in the state that you grow in or that you're working in. So if you're a cultivator and your state overgrows, which pretty much every single one has either allowed too much cultivation or not enough, what do you do with the excess product?
Calling All Growers with Liz Grow is supported by The Grow Kit from StyleLighting.shop, Adaptive HR, built for your cannabis business, Revolutionary Clinics, where the patient comes first, by Accounting Buds, your accountant in cannabis, and by Salient Video Surveillance Systems for today and tomorrow's security. Want to learn from the best growers? Sign up for our Growers webinar in exactly 2 weeks. Go to procannabismedia.com and sign up today.
Welcome back to Calling All Growers, everyone. I'm your host, Liz Grow, and we're here for this live edition of Calling All Growers. We have Ben Morgan Dillon with us. He's back from our last segment. And with us now are two new faces. We have Kobe Guy and Patrick King with us. Welcome, Kobe and Patrick. to Calling All Growers. How's it going?
It's going good. Just doing the deal in NorCal, getting ready to jump to the Boston zone. Pretty excited to land down and, put some warm clothes on and take, I got shorts and flip-flops on right now. It's going to be a little change.
Going to be a little chilly. I'm in Texas, so I hear you, my friend. I hear you. I'm, I will be in Boston as well. It's the Supernatural Organic Cultivators Conference. I can't say it enough, everyone. It's happening this weekend in Sturbridge, Massachusetts. And it's where the best in beyond organic farming cultivation are coming together. So talk to me, Patrick King, the Soil King. You've had 35 years in the agricultural industry. When did you start seeing the trends or the tides turning to a more agriculture or a more organic, regenerative kind of way of doing things?
I mean, first, I always love to say there's no segregation in agriculture. And I'll repeat that for those that didn't hear. There's no goddamn segregation in agriculture. That's the way it is. And it's never going to change when we segregate. So with agriculture, 35 years, my first memories is my hands being in the soil. That's my first memory. My second memory, and it's just been, this whole life has been, it's the only consistent thing I've ever had in my life. And I'm blessed with that. Like, that's just like the best thing ever, it's my serenity. I'm playing in my gardens today. I'm looking at bees all early coming in California. It's just crazy. And watching the flowers. And to be able to see outside, the tunnel vision of the world and actually look and be able to see what's in front of you and appreciate it is magical. Magical.
God, that's so true. There's just such, divine geometry in it all, and you can just really become fascinated. I feel like if we're able to slow down, and I think that's why I like hanging out with cultivators so much.
Yeah.
So Kobe, it's great to meet you, founder of Cellar Door Collective, organic heirloom vegetable farm. Sounds incredible.
Oh.
I read that you spent the last 4 years implementing KNF techniques on your farm. Is that right?
That's true. Yeah. As soon as I kind of picked up on KNF and just kind of was like, this is where I need to be. This is what I need to be doing. And it's definitely benefited my farm. I'm a smaller farm, so it works really nice for, I don't buy big pallets of fertilizer, or never did. And so being able to make everything on site, on farm, and if a kid gets into it, it's totally healthy and fine for them.
Right. I love that. And you're a chef. So
I like growing food and cooking food and making food and eating
awesome.
Food and feeding people. Yeah. Everything with food. I love it.
So have you changed your style now that you're, the KNF, believer and farmer, and it's what you're ingesting and it's what you're giving your plants? I mean,
have I changed? So I started farming professionally vegetables, actually out in New England here. It's been about 10 years since I've been out farming here, but moving back to California, people were like, you're crazy. It's expensive land and no water. Why would you move to farm vegetables in that kind of situation? But yeah, well, we'll get into that backstory a little bit more. Let's see, okay. Friday. How my little transition getting to there, but yeah, it's definitely changed everything. My bottom lines are very, very bottom, and it's fun to educate people because, like Ben was saying, it's very hands-on and tasting and getting into it, and it just sticks with you.
Oh, awesome. What do you find the biggest misconception is about it?
That you can't do it because you're not in Korea.
Okay.
Yeah, that usually throws people off, the whole Korean natural farming. Yeah. So sometimes we just refer to it as natural farming to keep it simple for folks early on.
Okay, good. Appreciate that. Awesome. So Patrick, do you employ KNF techniques? Do you have a farm? Or are you just the soil?
I mean, honestly, I do a little bit of everything. I ship soil around the world. I give a medium that's really exciting to work with, that's highly tested. It's I think, what was it, Tom was his name, or Kobe? He's talking sustainability, right? He's feeding his soul from the produce to the kitchen, to the plate. Like, there's nothing better than hearing that and feeling that. And so in this, I'm the soil king. If anybody doesn't know out there, I also own, many cannabis licenses in California, in Oklahoma, as well as, I love just to cultivate, and I love fungi, and I love, creating IMOs. I love everything of the learn. We learn so much. It's just crazy on this. It's just unbelievable is what the knowledge is. So bliss out there, and it's in front of us. And like I said, you just have to go hiking through the woods and open your mind. Like, it's all right there. Like, it's just, everything's right there. So yeah, so I do a lot of that. I have Soil King distribution, where we distribute soil all across the United States, different places in the world. We have other products coming in. Wendy and I are talking. We have a product coming out. We have a bunch of different things happening. I have a media, I'm a media company, Soil King Productions TV. So I do a lot of different things. I'm working on a big project with some networks right now, and that's all about hugelculture around the world, and taking legacy in every part of agriculture and giving them a voice. So there's so much stuff. I love it. This is my life. This is who I am. These are my tribe. These are my people. And, I'm open to the education process always.
Oh, I love it. So what are you speaking at the conference this weekend?
I have a couple of them in a couple different times. One of them, I'm really excited. I'm on the Outlaws panel. So, I've been to prison. I've had the helicopters. I fought. I'm an active, total activist for cannabis. I can put that patch of pioneering cannabis to where it's at today and being part of that tribe. Mm-hmm. Building bridges with law enforcement instead of getting doors kicked in and babies taken away from families. I actually got them to think about how pushing them indoors and making them hide and using chemical products, bombs, and all these different things, and poisoning their children, and they're actually doing more harm than they ever thought. And so there's so much to all of that. And I'm standing here now feeling good on the path that we all created to get to where we're at.
Yeah, that's beautiful. On the East Coast, of all places, I feel like, this is it. I was so excited to just hear how it was really Humboldt. It's the West Coast. You've been farming, you've been using these practices, employing them, growing cannabis legally for so long. And now, the East Coast is just opening up, and, certainly they're not just starting to grow. Okay. They've been growing for a very, very, very long time, behind closed doors. But to be able to bring these beautiful regenerative practices, very healing, nurturing practices, I think, to the East Coast and East Coast cultivators is a really special thing.
It really is. I mean, just think about it. Just think, if you have a regenerative style indoor and you're going, you don't have, and if you're not buying soil every run, your runoff is adding value to the plants. I mean, to the planet, your intentions, everything is involved. You're saving the money, right? Let's talk about money. It's incredible amount of savings to be thinking. And then, like Kobe's talking, sustainability, right? That's been a hard word that's been stolen, raped, pillaged all the way across. But true sustainability is everything. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not big agriculture just destroyed that word, just like they destroyed it with the word organic. But it means something to us.
Right. Absolutely. So Kobe, let's dive in there a little bit more, for those people who won't be fortunate enough to go to the conference this weekend. Talk to me about your talk.
We'll be talking food, farming, and microbes. Those are kind of my favorite things. I like farming and being outside. Some days you don't love farming as much, but that's when it's like 110. And yeah, that's part of farming though. So, and food, I actually brought some of my fermented hot sauces for people to try.
I will.
And then we'll talk microbes and how that plays into both food and in farming. So that'll be fun, and we'll pass some stuff around. And I'm kind of the vegetable grower who then became a cannabis grower. I grow a little cannabis with all my vegetables, kind of thing. So.
Oh, how fun. I would love to smoke it.
There it is right there. No segregation in agriculture.
Yep.
No.
Boom, right there.
Oh, I bet it's just happy bud. Oh man. Well, that's incredible. So, Kobe, what do you think the biggest misconception is about sustainability? You know, it's such a hot word right now. It's very, valuable word.
Well, definitely. Yeah. Being in professional vegetable cultivation for about 10 years now is like, you hear organic and you hear this and you hear that. And I worked on organic farms and I did that. And all these practices I looked at and went, well, that's not sustainable. That's definitely not regenerative. Like, we're just buying and shipping stuff. And it just never made sense to me. And so that idea of sustainability and even more so regenerative, because we've taken the planet so far, like we can't sustain anymore. We've got to actually like flip it around and get things moving the other direction, at least in plots of cannabis, in plots of veggies, like get these little, we'll eventually get the regenerative mycelial network connected, but little by little for now. I think that's a lot of these words that people throw around or that companies take and use, really just kind of lessens the importance of them and the value of the term itself. And so I think people now even are shifting from like using the word sustainable, because now we realize, we got to do more. Let's get regenerative. Let's keep the cycles looped and closed on our farms.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited. I can't wait to meet you, and I can't wait to meet you too, Patrick, at the Supernatural Organic Cultivators Conference this weekend in Sturbridge, Massachusetts. You'll be there with the experts. And if you can't be there, hop on the comments. Comments are open on YouTube. If you have questions that you'd like to ask either Kobe or Patrick or Ben Morgan Dillon, or I'm sure Wendy is still in the studio somewhere and you can grab her. But the comments are open. And then in 2 weeks, of course, we have our workshop, the Calling All Growers workshop, where you get to have real interaction with the experts, ask all the questions, learn techniques that you can then employ for, happier grow yourself. We will have an exclusive interview with Jim Belushi airing during that workshop. So get online and make sure that you register for that. So coming up on Calling All Growers, there's going to be a pop quiz for a T-shirt giveaway. So don't go anywhere. And you're also going to not want to miss this product showcase coming up. It's with Kyle Moffett of STEM Cultivation Systems. He's going to show us all about STEM cultivation systems. So stay with us and we'll see you after the break.
Oh, hi. I'm Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media, and I was just watering our fake plants in the studio here outside of Boston. You see, when it comes to growing things, leave me out of it. I'll leave it to the experts. And we all know the real superstars of the cannabis industry are the growers. Well, there's a Supernatural Organic Growers Conference that's coming to Massachusetts here in early February. That's right. This coincides with our new growing initiative here at the network for the cannabis industry. You see, the new year of 2022 brings growth to Pro Cannabis Media, literally, and in our programming. Our new live show is called Calling All Growers with High Times TV personality Liz Grow and Skunk Magazine editor and Humboldt native Wendy Kornberg. That's right, that live show debuts Wednesday, February 9th here at the network. And amazingly enough, the conference for growers, the first one ever, bringing in people from Humboldt County and the Emerald Triangle all the way to the East Coast to Massachusetts, is in Sturbridge, February 11th, 12th, and 13th. And yes, Liz Grow and Wendy will both be at that conference as well. Some of the most well-known growers from Humboldt County in California head east for the first time with their stories and experiences from that Emerald Triangle. Massachusetts' own Acadia Farms' Ben Morgan Dillon will be one of the featured speakers at this year's conference at the Sturbridge Conference Center that Friday, 11th through the 13th at 8 a.m. So for more information, log on to organiccultivators.net for info and tickets. So grow with PCM TV and the Supernatural Conference, will ya?
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hey, You want to grow your own plants? Check out Style Lighting's Grow Kit. It has everything you need to become an expert home grower and bring the power of the sun indoors. Style Lighting uses TCP's high-powered commercial LEDs that deliver twice the output in the market. The Grow Kit has a grow bag, a timer, chains to hang the light, and of course the best in the business lighting system by TCP. Check out stylelighting.shop for more information.
Hi, my name's Tai Chang. I'm the president and founder of Aloha Green Apothecary in Hawaii. We're a vertically integrated medical cannabis company with 3 dispensaries, 1 extraction lab, and 1 cultivation center near the North Shore of Oahu. We have over 150 employees now, and we've been working with Adaptive HR to meet our human resource needs. We're super excited to work with them as we expand, and we've grown at least 2-3 times over the last 2 years. So we look forward to a good relationship with Adaptive, and come visit us in Hawaii anytime. Aloha.
Want to learn from the best growers? Sign up for our Growers webinar in exactly 2 weeks. Go to procannabismedia.com and sign up today.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Calling All Growers. I'm your host, Liz Grow, and I am here with an all-star cast of growers for our very first episode. I'm with Guy Kobe of Organic Sellers. I'm with Wendy Kornberg of Sunnabis, Full Sun Farms in Humboldt. Thank you very much. 2nd generation farmer. And then Patrick King, the soil king, essentially, who's been in cultivation, agriculture, I should say, for 35 years in all parts of it. And now joining us, we've got Kyle Moffett of STEM Cultivation Systems. Kyle, welcome to Calling All Growers.
Thank you, Liz. It's great to be here. Appreciate it.
So we are here. You are our very first product feature spotlight.
I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I'm glad I'm here.
I'm really excited. I'm excited to. So tell us about STEM cultivation.
Sure. So STEM cultivation, science, technology, engineering, math. That is the reason why we have branded that way. So we're coming at this in a completely different aspect in terms of growing. So what we're doing is building platforms so that these amazing growers, if they want to scale up, they have an ability to do so without really changing any of their known techniques, right? So we're not asking them to do anything differently, but by using our system, it provides a level of efficiency that we think is the way forward. We talk about sustainability and efficiency, but we actually have the numbers behind that because we think that is, that's a term that's being thrown around, but not quite sure that we've really gotten the stats behind what is current and where we need to go. So we're trying to help develop that that conversation and basically allow for growers with this amazing skill set to basically just do what they do now, but hopefully in a much more sustainable way.
So can you talk a little bit more about how you're doing it in a more sustainable way?
Sure. So we are a hydroponic system, a recirculating hydroponic system that can support organic nutrients. And it's really just a very basic system. And we're taking advantage of what plants do when you put them in certain situations. And mainly, we're exploiting this concept of gravitropism. What is that? And that is when if you make a plant start growing out vertically, it will naturally turn itself up. And that's something that you'll see anywhere in nature. Trees do it, anything does it. And why does that matter? Because it allows us to make vertical canopies that then allow us to make a lot of high quality product in a very small space. It also allows us to bring the lights to the canopy way closer, which means you can dim the lights because there's some physics involved, and there's an inverse square law thing. And again, STEM, we're nerds. What can we say? But we're taking advantage of these things so that you can use less power, use less water, use less nutrients, et cetera, but still not sacrifice any quality. And I'll give you an example of the kind of things that we're seeing. For instance, so you can see behind me, this is one of our grow rooms, and this is about 340 square feet, takes up about 340 square feet, and it's a self-contained unit. So it's a precise environment. And I'm on site here in Oklahoma, helping put up our second box. So we just are finishing our first grow in this box, and some amazing things. So we haven't weighed it yet because we're still in that process, but we're expecting above 80 pounds dry. Our record so far is 92 pounds dry in that space. But more importantly, I think, are the stats around sustainability. So for instance, in this grow, we've used less than 1 gallon per plant per week of water. We've also used less than $100 worth of nutrients to produce this much. And without doing anything, there's no potion, there's no magic. It's just putting plants in a physical condition that allows you to maximize the amount you can make in a given space. And then these downstream kind of ancillary effects that further increase the efficiency and sustainability of the system.
And what are you finding with the, quality and potency of the product?
So, there's nothing weird. I think the question would be, what's the difference between hydroponic and soil-based grows, right? Because we're not doing anything different from so if you believe that hydroponics, offers something similar to soil, and I'm not here to, I don't have a dog in that hunt. I'll smoke anything. I don't care. But to the extent that hydroponics can offer that same level of quality, that's what you're going to get in this system.
Right. And some, some growers just prefer, hydroponics. It's kind of, their jam. The pH levels and it feels a lot more clinical, right, than soil farming, and regenerative farming, obviously. But a lot of growers do that and do it, for many, many reasons, space being one of them. How big is your footprint, Kyle?
So it's the entire box is about 340 square feet.
Okay.
But we have, but within that, we can put over 480 square feet of canopy. And so again, the size of the plants that we're growing and all that's we're not doing anything huge there, right? But these are normally grown plants of normal size and hopefully a higher quality, but it's just how efficiently can you do it, right? So the question is not how much can you grow, it's what's the least amount of electricity, what's the least amount of water, what's the least amount of labor that you need to get a given result.
Great, absolutely. So how can people find you, and speak with you?
Sure. So you can go to STEM Cultivation, STEMCULTIVATION.com. I say that a lot, so I can remember. But the first time I had to say it, I was like, but you can go to STEMcultivation.com. You can contact me directly at Kyle@STEMcultivation.com. And we have our own YouTube channel. We have which is just STEM Cultivation. You can see a lot of videos there. We have an Instagram just at STEM Cultivation. So that's where we post a lot of our media. But it's very easy to get a hold of us if you want to.
Awesome. And will you be at any conferences anytime soon where people can meet in person?
Yeah, well, I'm going to try to get out to Sturbridge, but I don't know if I'll be able to get out of Oklahoma, Smokelahoma, as they say. But we are going to be at NECANN in Boston in March. We will be we'll have a booth there, and you'll actually be able to see a section of our box, so you can kind of see what the magic is inside. So we're excited.
Oh, that's very cool. Well, very cool. It was so great to meet you. I'm really thrilled that you were our first featured product on Calling All Growers, you know, a show about tips, tricks, secrets of the growers game. So before we wrap up, I just want to remind everybody of the giveaway that's happening, the PCM T-Shirt Giveaway. Make sure to email your answers to the questions to info@procannabismedia.com. And I also want to remind everybody about the workshops in 2 weeks. Calling All Growers isn't just a series about interviewing growers. It's about interacting with growers helping growers, learning from each other and learning from the best. And so in 2 weeks' time, we will have our very first growers workshop. That workshop is free. We only ask that you register on Pro Cannabis Media. And we're going to have an exclusive interview with Jim Belushi of Belushi Farms airing for that workshop. And then we're going to get in and talk to the experts about regenerative farming practices, beyond organic. And yeah, so that's what's happening with the workshop. I am just so grateful to my co-host for today, Miss Wendy Kornberg of Humboldt, second generation cultivator. Wendy, can you just do this all the time? Could you just do this every show?
Yeah, we could do this 24/7, right? And never get tired, never have anything to not talk about.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. And Kobe guy of Cellar Door Collective. I just totally spaced and I was like, organic heirloom, Cellar Door
Sounds
Collective.
Good to me.
I mean, that's what
branding.
We do. Yeah, right. Cellar Door Collective, so important. I can't wait to hear you speak this weekend at the Supernatural Organic Cultivators Conference. And I just can't wait to meet you and high five. Hopefully you'll save me some of your hot sauce.
You should have some.
Okay, so his hot sauce, I kid you not, has caused fist fights. Okay, not quite fist fights, got close. It got almost to blows. It's amazing. It's probably, it's not probably, it's the best hot sauce I've ever had. So when he said he was bringing it to share with everybody, I'm like, it may or may not disappear off the table on accident. I won't know what happened to it. Don't blame me.
You're gonna have to hide it.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll have cameras rolling, so we'll have to check the tapes. And Patrick King, the Soil King. It was just so great to be able to chat with you tonight, sir. And I can't wait to hear this Outlaws panel. I'm just going to sit and soak it all in, just gratefully learning and, being among the people who are teaching, the techniques, educating the educators, and the next generation of growers, sustainable practices so that we have an earth to continue to grow on. I think that sounds like that's the whole point of it. But so Wendy, can you tell people again how they can register for the conference this weekend?
Yeah, so it's February 11th, 12th, and 13th in Sturbridge, Massachusetts. We do not have an online version of this time. This is the inaugural conference. So, adding that level of technology to it was just way more than I was willing to take on. And so it's got to be live this time. We will be recording it and hopefully releasing clips and things after the show. But you can go to organiccultivators.net. You can still pick up tickets. And they did actually just yesterday tell us that they upgraded us to a larger conference room just in case. So we'll have some tickets available at the door. So if you decide you want to come last minute, come on down.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to be there with everyone. And, I do want to announce really quickly a little sneak peek into our guest for March, our Calling All Growers guest in March. The second week of March is going to be Ed Rosenthal, the guru of ganja himself. And so I am just I feel like I'm just riding high into life. I'm going to the Supernatural Organic Cultivators Conference. I'm going to meet, the best of the organic cultivation from the West Coast, teaching on the East Coast. I'm going to meet so many East Coast cultivators. And I'm just really grateful. We're grateful for you all for sharing your wisdom and knowledge and support of, on this show, Calling All Growers, and to other growers and being educators. Because really what it does is it expands the reach of the plant across the planet. And as someone for whom this plant has saved, I am just completely grateful and in awe and in love with all of you educators and all of you growers. Calling All Growers is produced by Pro Cannabis Media and Grow House Media with generous support from our sponsors. I'll see you at the Supernatural Organic Cultivators Conference this weekend in Sturbridge, Massachusetts. And then in 2 weeks, we've got our workshop happening. Register online. I'm Liz Grow, and I'm calling all growers. Okay, I'll see you next time.
Oh, hi. I'm Jimmy Young from Pro Cannabis Media, and I was just watering our fake plants in the studio here outside of Boston. You see, when it comes to growing things, leave me out of it. I'll leave it to the experts. And we all know the real superstars of the cannabis industry are the growers. Well, there's a Supernatural Organic Growers Conference that's coming to Massachusetts here in early February. That's right, this coincides with our new growing initiative here at the network for the cannabis industry. You see, the new year of 2022 brings growth to Pro Cannabis Media, literally, and in our programming. Our new live show is called Calling All Growers with High Times TV personality Liz Grow and Skunk Magazine editor and Humboldt native Wendy Kornberg. That's right, that live show debuts Wednesday, February 9th here at the network. And amazingly enough, the conference for growers, the first one ever, bringing in people from Humboldt County and the Emerald Triangle all the way to the East Coast to Massachusetts, is in Sturbridge, February 11th, 12th, and 13th. And yes, Liz Grow and Wendy will both be at that conference as well. Some of the most well-known growers from Humboldt County in California head east for the first time with their stories and experiences from that Emerald Triangle. Massachusetts' own Acadia Farms, Ben Morgan Dillon, will be one of the featured speakers at this year's conference at the Sturbridge Conference Center that Friday, 11th through the 13th at 8 a.m. So for more information, log on to organiccultivators.net for info and tickets. So grow with PCM TV and the Supernatural Conference, will ya?
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hey, you want to grow your own plants? Check out Style Lighting's Grow Kit. It has everything you need to become an expert home grower and bring the power of the sun indoors. Style Lighting uses TCP's high-powered commercial LEDs that deliver twice the output in the market. The Grow Kit has a grow bag, a timer, chains to hang the light, and of course the best in the business lighting system by TCP. Check out stylelighting.shop for more information.
Hi, my name's Tai Chang. I'm the president and founder of Aloha Green Apothecary in Hawaii. We're a vertically integrated medical cannabis company with 3 dispensaries, 1 extraction lab, and 1 cultivation center near the North Shore of Oahu. We have over 150 employees now, and we've been working with Adaptive HR to meet our human resource needs. We're super excited to work with them as we expand, and we've grown at least 2-3 times over the last 2 years. So we look forward to a good relationship with Adaptive, and come visit us in Hawaii anytime. Aloha.
I'm a fan.
That's Liz Grow, Pro Cannabis Media's newest show host for a new show, Calling All Growers with Liz Grow. Liz is a High Times TV personality who'll be joining our talk show program starting in February.
I picture a company that stands the test of time.
Stopping at nothing to meet the people who are growing this plant generation after generation.
Calling All Growers will be more than just another interview and talk show, especially if you subscribe to the Calling All Growers workshop and webinar. That's 2 weeks after the live talk show on the same growing network, Pro Cannabis Media and PCM TV.
This is a show about interviewing the top growers in the game. It's a platform where they can share tips, tricks, and secrets for those growers coming up. Cultivators are some of my favorite people in the world, and I can't wait to talk to some of these growers.
It all starts on Wednesday, February 9th, live at 8 p.m. Eastern on PCM TV, on Roku, Apple, and ProCannabisMedia.com. Subscription-only workshops 2 weeks later on the 23rd. Sign up today to hold your spot.
What's your favorite strain?
Free.
If you're a grower or interested in learning more, tune in or...
You're missing out. Calling All Growers with Liz Grow.
Calling All Growers with Liz Grow is supported by The Grow Kit from StyleLighting.shop, Adaptive HR, built for your cannabis business, Revolutionary Clinics, where the patient comes first, by Accounting Buds, your accountant in cannabis, and by Salient Video Surveillance Systems for today and tomorrow's security. Want to learn from the best growers? Sign up for our Growers webinar in exactly 2 weeks. Go to ProCannabisMedia.com and sign up today. Coming up on We Talk News this week, farmers in Humboldt County, California protest high excise taxes, and their voices were heard. A huge reduction. We have reaction from the Emerald Triangle. Plus, the Tennessee Valley Authority threatens to pull access to electricity for the new medical marijuana program in Mississippi, causing an outrage in the industry. Speaking of outrageous, Weed Maps produces a commercial for Sunday's big game in the NFL, and the league rejects weed again. And the THC percentage in hemp could be increased if a new congressional bill passes. All that and more on We Talk News next. Pro Cannabis Media Programming and PCM TV is supported by Revolutionary Clinics, Massachusetts' #1 medical dispensary where the patient comes first, and by Salient Systems for Video Surveillance. You've got regulations, Salient has solutions for your security needs. And by Accounting Buds, your #1 CPA specialist for the cannabis industry.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Weed Talk News. I'm Elena Pinto reporting for Pro Cannabis Media. This week's top headline comes from the Golden State, California, and more specifically, the world-renowned Emerald Triangle, what many know to be the home of modern cannabis. Home to Trinity, Mendocino, and Humboldt counties, the Emerald Triangle has led the pioneering front on U.S. cannabis for decades. And now the Board of Supervisors in Humboldt County has voted to slash excise taxes for cannabis producers by a whopping 85%. Our own Jimmy Young spoke with Wendy Kornberg of Sunnabis and her partner, James Buehrer, about what this means for small cannabis farmers.
So for all the small farmers in Humboldt County, and really for farmers, especially cannabis farmers in the United States even, I mean, this is much broader reaching than just Humboldt County, but right now, obviously, it's a Humboldt County tax, so it just affects us. But the reduction of this is, I'm not in any way like downplaying this. It is literally the savior of the farms in cannabis farms in Humboldt County. Hopefully this has much broader implications and many of the other counties in California begin to follow suit. And what this can in turn do is create a much more stable structure for cannabis businesses across our state. And hopefully that flows through across the nation as well as more and more states elect to have cannabis programs.
Cool. Now I'm going to turn this question to James, and it's going to be something of a surprise because I know when we talked the other night about this, you were very proud of the fact that you brought your children to the protest, and they now have seen how democracy works. How pleased are you about the result?
Well, it's certainly not what we expected to happen. I was quite sure that the outcome was going to be something that people were sad about, and that it was probably going to be the demise of a lot of farms. And actually what happened was they listened to the outcry of the people. They saw the people on the streets and driving past and actually heard the message. It's unfortunate that the supervisor that ran primarily on cannabis and cannabis business was the one who did not vote for this reduction, but an 85% reduction is huge. So it's really awesome that the kids were able to see what you can do when you actually get out and, you know, produce action instead of just talking. It's pretty wild. I'm really happy that was the result, so they can move forward in life with that ethos.
As we've seen in weed history before, there's hope here that other cannabis communities will take Humboldt's lead, and hopefully we'll start to see more compassion and wiggle room for small farmers across the board. Now let's take a closer look at what's happening in California this week with Christopher Smith.
Hi from the left coast, and before you spark up a bowl for the Super Bowl weekend, here's the California Roundup for Weed Talk News. So well before Prop 64 legalized cannabis for adult use in 2016, California cannabis advocates warned that letting large, well-funded growers into the market too soon would be the death of small farms. California responded by letting the big guys in even sooner than promised, and the predictions have come through equally fast. Cultivation taxes are the highest in the nation. Pricing has collapsed, squeezing small farmers who agreed to play by the rules to the brink of extinction. After dozens of local farmers and their families all but begged for relief, the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors cut a cannabis excise tax by 85% on Monday. So let's see if Governor Gavin Newsom reads the writing on the wall and does the right thing as well. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife has announced it eradicated 2.6 million pounds of illegally cultivated cannabis plants and 487,270 pounds of flower during its 2021 enforcement operations. Most countries don't even grow this much. In California, this is how much was destroyed by Johnny Law. Well, that's a hell of a flex against the bad guys, Sheriff, but how many tons of cannabis medicine was created for Californians? None. How much distillate was extracted and distributed to veterans trying to get off of opioids? None. And how much was for children with epilepsy? None. Well, surely Johnny Law made some money from the haul. None. And how about just mulching it and creating some compost? None. Oh, you burned it and you added to our air pollution. So that's Cali law enforcement for you. Quick with the torch, slow on common sense. And a quick addendum to a story from last week. Roz McCarthy's new brand has announced more details. So you'll recall that McCarthy is the founder of Minorities for Medical Marijuana and has now launched a new brand of her own called Black Buddha. Well, first, Black Buddha will be rolling out in 4 states, California, Michigan, Nevada, Ohio. Second, Black Buddha is leading with chillums and gummies, with plenty more where that came from. And some exciting news, cannabis patient and movie star Malik Yoba has joined the brand as Chief Strategy Officer. So you'll recognize Yoba from his work in Cool Runnings and New York Undercover. Now, if you want to learn more about Roz McCarthy and her Black Buddha brand, I will be interviewing Roz next week on my new show called The American Cannabis Report on PCM TV. So make sure to check it out. And I'm Christopher Smith, publisher of the American Cannabis Report, sharing California's bounty, beauty, and Black Buddha for Weed Talk News.
Federal prohibition is causing some strife in the South. The Tennessee Valley Authority, a federally owned power utility that operates in parts of Mississippi, is threatening to cut the lights on businesses cultivating or selling cannabis. And even though Mississippi just legalized medical marijuana, The company says while it is under contract to provide services to local power companies, federal law says those resources and funds may not be purposely used for activity that violates federal law. And because cannabis is still a controlled substance, TVA says it will, quote, not direct any federal resources or funds to the cultivation and/or distribution of marijuana. Employees are now urged to report any use of TVA's electricity by Mississippi cannabis businesses, which could mean a lot of new weed operations unfairly left in the dark. Sticking with the South, let's check in with Heather Allman for this week's Florida Report.
I'm Heather Allman from Cannabis Law Report with This Week in Florida for We Talk News. Criminals may be getting more creative, but so are detectives. The Polk County Sheriff's Office recently spearheaded an undercover sting operation using social media and dating apps. Last Thursday, the 6-month operation ended with the arrest of more than 60 individuals, according to Sheriff Grady Judd, including 159 felony charges filed and 72 misdemeanors. Investigators will not only continue to monitor apps, they will also be working in tandem with mobile app companies to help stop illegal sales. As for legal cannabis transactions, more seniors are using cannabis as the number of adults 65 or older who reported recent cannabis use jumped by 18% in 2021, according to a report by the National Survey of Drug Use and Health. The fact that more seniors also admitted to using cannabis during their lifetime signals a possible cultural shift and wider acceptance of cannabis use in this age group. In Florida, seniors represent a large percentage of our registered patients and are proving to be more receptive to the medical benefits of cannabis than any other demographic, choosing cannabis over harsh medications like opioids. In other news, according to John Templeton, founder of the Treasure Island-based Footprint Addiction Treatment Center, seniors here in the Sunshine State are excited about a new study that followed 115 patients with chronic pain who had been using opioid treatment for at least 6 months. After being weaned off opioids and treated instead with a cannabis supplement, a 70% reduction in opioid use was seen in the majority of test patients. The study concluded that cannabis use does not bring physical addiction or withdrawal. In fact, long-term opioid users were able to reduce their use of opioids, making cannabis a viable option to reduce reliance on the drug and decrease related deaths and overdoses. That's a wrap for Florida Cannabis this week. I'm Heather Allman from Cannabis Law Report for We Talk News.
Everyone's favorite big football game is this weekend, and while stoners may be eager for the funny ads, we will once again miss out on any commercials for cannabis. Weed Maps, in partnership with LA-based Quantum Spin Studios, pumped out an ad with a very comical but relatable spin on cannabis censorship in the current digital age.
I'm an icon. But since we can't talk about cannabis publicly, my likeness is being used as a safe substitute.
Well, Brock?
Hi.
Oh, hi indeed.
I don't see the resemblance.
Sale. That's the only reason I got it. Oh, hey, where you headed? On your break?
Finance meeting, Janet.
Okay, bud. Go get that green.
They're not even being subtle anymore.
Wow. Don't do this to me.
Oh, there you are.
Hey, Susan.
Let's hotbox this.
It's taking over my life. Cannabis is here to stay. That's great. But can we just call it what it is? I'm broccoli. I mean, you guys get it. Pot, leaf.
It's messed up.
Thank you.
The White House faced major backlash this week when several media outlets decided to run rampant with the headline, Biden administration handing out crack pipes. The Department of Health and Human Services has finalized a $30 million grant as part of a new harm reduction plan, which has language that apparently allows some community programs to fund, quote, safe smoking kits for those experiencing addiction. But several federal sources have since clarified the White House is not specifically handing out pipes. The grant instead allows communities to decide which resources would best serve them, and which could include smoking kits of some kind. So no matter how you spin it, this is a new way to look at addiction and abuse as a matter of mental and physical health rather than criminalization. And hopefully we can see this ideology leak over into cannabis. With more from the nation's capital, let's check in with Vote Pro Podcast's Phil Adams.
I'm Phil Adams from Vote Pro Podcast, here with the Weed Talk News DC report. A new report from the Congressional Research Service finds a divergence of how federal courts interpret a legislative measure that protects state marijuana programs from interference by the federal government. The provision, which was originally approved as a rider to the 2014 spending bill and has been renewed every year since then, stipulates that Justice Department funding cannot be used to prevent states from implementing their own medical marijuana programs. In particular, the report looks at the different ways the 1st and 9th District Courts of Appeals have dealt with this provision. While the 9th Circuit has held that only strict compliance with all conditions of state law can protect a person from prosecution, a recent decision by the 1st Circuit shifts the burden to the DOJ. Their ruling says that the rider precludes the department under most circumstances from prosecuting individuals who hold a state-issued medical marijuana license. Congressional lawmakers are criticizing the Tennessee Valley Authority for threatening to cut off electricity to state legal cannabis businesses. Representative Steve Cohen of Tennessee and Earl Blumenauer of Oregon sent a tersely worded letter to William Kilbride, chairman of the federally owned utility company. The two congressmen expressed their concern over a recent statement from the TVA, suggesting that since it is under federal contract, it cannot legally serve the cannabis business. The letter urges swift rescission of the statement and calls on the TVA to abide by congressional intent that states should not be impeded in implementing their own legal cannabis programs. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and other Senate leaders are urging fellow lawmakers to weigh in on a bill to federally legalize cannabis. Schumer said his goal is to formally introduce the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act sometime in April, and he's seeking input from leaders of relevant committees. Among other provisions, the bill would federally deschedule cannabis, expunge prior convictions, authorize states to set their own marijuana policies, and impose a federal tax on cannabis products. Schumer, along with Senate colleagues Cory Booker and Ron Wyden, unveiled the draft legislation last June. That's the Weed Talk News DC report for this week. I'm Phil Adams from Vote Pro Podcast.
Ironically enough, Washington State is also taking a new approach to harm reduction. This week, state activists finalized an initiative that would remove criminal penalties for simple drug possession of any drug and would direct nearly $150 million toward funding for substance misuse treatment. Josh Kincaid has this week's Washington Report.
I'm Josh Kincaid from the Talking Hedge with the Washington State Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Washington State's cannabis revenues last year were $287 million more than that of liquor and more than 2.5 times what the state saw during the 2015 to 2017 biennium. Since Washington voters legalized cannabis in 2012, the state's benefited from hundreds of millions of dollars in additional tax revenues. However, cities have been stuck sharing a relatively small portion of those revenues with counties. Washington State collected a total of $560 million in legal cannabis income and licensing fees last year. Let's break that down. Total sales last year were $1.48 billion, coming from almost 42 million transactions, with customers spending $35 on average, and a year-over-year sales growth last month of -8%. An overhaul of the state's cannabis revenues accounts would mean $7 million in additional money for those areas, as long as they have a licensed cannabis producer, processor, or retailer physically located in their jurisdiction. And although it's unlikely that the income raised from cannabis tax will completely change the city's economy, it is refreshing to learn that the state's planning to allocate the funds to local communities for much needed improvements. Next week, you're going to find out about Washington State's plan for social equity licenses. But with that, we're going to have to roll up this Washington State Cannabis Report. I'm Josh Kincaid from the Talking Hedge, reporting for Weed Talk News. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't. And I'm out.
The definition of hemp could be changing under a newly introduced congressional bill. Representative Chelly Pingree of Maine filed the Hemp Advancement Act this week, which would increase the legal THC threshold for hemp products from 0.3% to 1%. The move could give hemp and cannabis businesses more flexibility, but it also has the potential to upend the Delta 8 market, which has been existing in a bizarre gray area for quite some time. So we'll have to watch how this bill moves through Capitol Hill. But on a smaller scale, many communities are still grappling with how to regulate the plant at a local level. And with that, let's travel to Vermont and check in with Jessie Lynn Dillon.
I'm Jessie Lynn Dillon from Nurse Grown Organics and Vermont Cannabis Nurses, and this is the Weed Talk News Vermont Report. Last week, lawmakers approved H701, a cannabis licensing fee bill designed to encourage the development of small cultivators throughout the state. The annual fee for the smallest outdoor grower would be $750, while the fee for the largest grower would be $75,000. Thursday, February 10th, was Cannabis Equity Advocacy on the Capitol. Members of the Vermont Cannabis Equity Coalition partners, which include NOFA Vermont, Rural Vermont, Vermont Growers Association, and Vermont Racial Justice Alliance, met with the House and Senate Agriculture Committees to discuss recommendations for a just and inclusive cannabis marketplace. Mary Stem Farms and Nurse Grown Organics also provided testimony. The Cannabis Control Board has sent Rules 1 and 2 to the Legislative Committee on Administrative Rules. The board's latest report made a number of key recommendations, including recommendations for social equity outreach and social equity, lifting the 30% THC cap on cannabis flower, online ordering and delivery, additional license types, including craft cooperative, delivery, and special events, display and sale of cannabis-related paraphernalia to be allowed, and encouraging working with state agency partners on economic opportunity program development. Rule 3, which deals with the medical program, and Rule 4, which covers compliance and enforcement, is currently in a public notice and comment period. The Cannabis Control Board will be hearing public testimony next Friday on Rule 3 and 4. The Vermont Medical Cannabis Program released results of a 575 patient survey in which over 85% of patients responded they have experienced a great deal of benefit from cannabis, while about 45% said it was somewhat unaffordable to not unaffordable. On Thursday, February 10th, the Cannabis Control Board's networking event for social equity and economic empowerment applicants met discussing building a successful business plan and featured renowned cannabis attorney Cheryl Murray Powell. Saturday, February 12th, Vermontuana is hosting a networking event at the Vermont Grow Barn in West Brattleboro. That's the Vermont Report for Weed Talk News. I'm Vermont's cannabis nurse, Jessie Lynn Dillon.
Patients in Pennsylvania are piping up about the need for home grows. Last week, officials announced the state's largest ever recall of cannabis products. And this has many marijuana patients questioning the reliability of the state's processing and testing techniques. And they're not going to be quiet about it. Claudia Post has much more in this week's Pennsylvania Report.
I'm Claudia Post from Scarlet Express, reporting from Pennsylvania, the Keystone State, and I'm here reporting for We Talk News. First up, the Pennsylvania Department of Health, in its infinite wisdom, issued a mandatory recall on hundreds of vape cartridges, hundreds of brands of vape cartridges. Now, keep in mind that these same vape cartridges from the same manufacturers have been in use since 2018. So why all of a sudden, in their infinite wisdom, as I say, have they decided to recall these vapes? It has sent dispensaries and patients into an absolute panic and tizzy. The two greatest offenders are Curaleaf and Trueleaf, which is sort of ironic. And we are getting a lot of pushback from our Pennsylvania Cannabis Coalition. So there'll be more news on that as we go along. Next, this is good news. The GOP held hearings on the use of marijuana, home grow and adult use. Well, that's a plus because they were so against it. But now I guess they see those dollars and they're all for it. One of the things that came out is that they're deeply concerned about how police enforcement will handle this. And I say it's going to take education on everybody's side, but there are other things that are of importance as well. And they are wondering whether this will stop or put a dent in the black market. Again, we don't know. We're waiting to see. And I say that the powers that be should go out, go to other states, see how adult use works, bring it back to Pennsylvania. Why reinvent the wheel? But keep in mind, folks, this is Pennsylvania, and that's how we do things. Now, this is really an interesting twist. Pennsylvania requires terpene profiles on all of the THC strains. Now, East Coast folks think that the best flower has the highest THC count. That's not necessarily true. It really also has three other components. What are the cannabinoids? What are the terpenes? And obviously, what is the freshness? So I think this, again, is a matter of educating the consumer as to what to choose. That's the wrap from Pennsylvania. I'm Claudia Post from Scarlet Express, and I'll be back next week to talk about what's hot and what's not in Pennsylvania. From Weed Talk News, have a fabulous week.
People in New York seem to be growing impatient with the wait to purchase legal weed. And now the state's Office of Cannabis Management is cracking down. While adult use was legalized last year, the state still hasn't issued any licenses for legal sales. So some business operators have reportedly been selling products or services, then providing cannabis as a gift in return. The office sent out letters this week warning businesses that gifting is against the law, and it could lead to losing out on those coveted licenses in legal market once it's implemented. So maybe don't accept any weed gifts if you're in New York. And speaking of legal markets, a bill is now moving forward in Massachusetts that would allow public consumption lounges. Ron Marshalsea has this week's Massachusetts report. Ron.
I'm Ron Marshalsea with the Massachusetts Cannabis Report for We Talk News. The United Food and Commercial Workers Local 1445 are using a quirk in Massachusetts law that allows agriculture workers, such as those who work in cannabis cultivation, to organize with signed union cards without having to hold an election. Over the last 10 years, changes at the National Labor Relations Board have slowed down the traditional process of organizing. For example, an employer used to have 7 days to appeal a filing. They now have 14. Small changes like that can add up. Secretary-Treasurer of Local 1445, Fabricio Da Silva, was quoted as saying, "Traditional organizing, once you get a majority of the workers signed, you have to go through the NLRB. Back in the Obama era, we could have an election in 29 days. Now, we'll go 2 months by the time I have an election." Da Silva claims the reason they lose sometimes when it comes to a vote is only because of the anti-union propaganda, which he says is based on fear and uncertainty. Boston researchers say they've developed a new, non-invasive technique for detecting marijuana highs that can reliably tell when a person is actually impaired versus them just using it recently. Their approach has been described as more direct than looking at a person's blood for impairment. They want to peer into the brain with light-based imaging. Further development and validation is needed, but the team behind the work is hopeful it could lead to a roadside device that would allow police to catch dangerously stoned drivers. But more importantly, it would be without sweeping up law-abiding cannabis consumers, as well as medical marijuana patients who have THC in their system but are not actively impaired. That's this week's Massachusetts Cannabis Report. For Weed Talk News, I'm Ron Marshalsea.
Now, on the other side of gifting weed, an initiative in Missouri explicitly allows the act. The Legal Missouri 2022 campaign would include language that will allow adults 21 and older to purchase or simply gift up to 3 ounces of cannabis at a time. And with more from the Show Me State, Brandon Jones has this week's Missouri Report.
Hey everybody, Brandon Jones here again from Distribution Maven with Missouri Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. And being able to gift would be pretty awesome here in Missouri as a home grower. I would actually be able to gift some of my own homegrown products here. Some of my friends, I'm sure they'd be very happy. My first story today comes out of grownin.com, and the Missouri Supreme Court actually ruled that the application archives must be reopened to all those people that had sent in their appeals. So all those applications that had been denied now get to get looked at and compared to others and see the scores and the discrepancies. And they are very worried this is going to be a slippery slope for all these applicants that were denied. So this is going to be a very curious issue to watch here in Missouri in the next few months. My next story is a little bit more personal. I had a family relative reach out to me here just this last week. And as you know, Kansas City, half of it is still, half the city is in Kansas, and that's where most of my family lives. He had a protege of his that's only 40, reach out to him and let him know that he actually has terminal cancer, and wanted to know if my uncle could help him in any way with finding any medical marijuana, and if there was any way to actually do that legally in Kansas. And I had to let my uncle know that unfortunately at this time there is no way to get any medical marijuana to his protege that is in his 40s, has terminal cancer, and needs just some relief, some medicine to help him. So I just implore all of you out there that are still, in states that are allowing medical cannabis to still help reach out to those legislations, help those others reach out to the normal teams. And if you are in those states that don't have access, I implore you to do that even more. Just reach out to your local legislation, look out for your normal teams. They're all over this entire country, and they're there for support. So let's get access to everyone that needs it. Thanks again. This is Brandon Jones from Distribution Maven with the Missouri Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Have a great week, everybody.
Folks in Michigan apparently love their marijuana to high heaven. Delivery platform Ease has published its 2022 State of Cannabis Report, surveying users of its services in California and Michigan. And based on its findings, Ease says the top 3 cities of customers that prefer high potency pot products are in Michigan, not California. An interesting insight into what customers are looking for when they purchase their cannabis. And with that, let's check in with Michigan Normal Executive Director, Rick Thompson.
Hello again, everyone. This is the Michigan Report with Rick Thompson on Weed Talk News. Let's begin. Cannabis sales in Michigan sank by 9% in January as compared to December's figures. The data is from the Marijuana Regulatory Agency, but the report came to us from New Cannabis Ventures. Medical cannabis sales dropped 15% from December, and adult use dropped 8%. January's cannabis sales in Michigan were the worst on record since June 2021. In the past, January sales have improved from the previous December, but that statistic is misleading, as in prior years, the industry was just launching. Although cannabis flower dominates both the medical and recreational markets, the presence of vape pens is different in each sector. Medical cannabis flower sales were $12.8 million in January, and vapes were $7.5 million, which is about 58% of the flower sale total. In the adult use market, there were $60.8 million sold in flower in January, but only $27.2 million in vape sales, which is only 44% of the flower sales total. Those flower to vape ratios seem to be holding steady in the market. Overall, cannabis pricing is down to its lowest point ever in the regulated market, with the current Marijuana Regulatory Agency reported price of a pound riding at $2,440, which is down 53% from a year ago and fell 17% in just 1 month. Detroit's latest effort to allow recreational cannabis businesses has been written and submitted to council. Detroit already has 75 medical marijuana retail licenses issued and many other cultivation and processing licenses as well. In 2020, they tried to adopt an ordinance allowing adult use cannabis businesses to run, but the courts found the ordinance unfairly gave advantage to Detroit residents and ruled the ordinance unconstitutional. This latest version has different wording included, but seems to have a new version of the same program that the courts rejected before. Additionally, the new ordinance eliminates veteran status as a qualifier for social equity and reduces the amount cannabis businesses are required to contribute to local charities from 1% to 0.25% of gross revenues. The ordinance was just introduced this week, and there are likely to be many amendments to the language before a vote is taken. Okay, look, we all know that buying cannabis based on THC content is not the right way to do it, but a new report from the delivery company Ease says Michiganders are buying into the lie even more than Californians. The company released a report this week showing that 3 cities in Michigan really prefer the high THC number cannabis. They compared Michigan and California because those are the only 2 states they operate in. Now, who prefers the high THC numbers? Of all age groups, Gen Z purchased concentrates with the highest average THC content, with millennials coming in a close second, followed by Gen X, according to an article featured on Metro Times. Now, men buy more flower, while women seem to prefer edibles and pre-rolls. And when do we Michiganders prefer the high THC products? In the colder months, according to Ease's State of Cannabis report. And what cannabis do those people order to get that high THC number? Strains like wedding cake and the various glues, it seems. Now, which were those 3 cities named by Ease as the highest THC-loving cities in 2 states? Well, in 3rd place is the Motor City, Detroit. In 2nd, Grand Rapids, which is our 2nd biggest city in the state. And the number 1 high THC-loving city in both California and Michigan is Ann Arbor. Of course it's Ann Arbor. Why wouldn't it be? And that's it for the Michigan Report with Rick Thompson on Weed Talk News.
Overseas in Israel, the Justice Minister has submitted a plan for cannabis decriminalization to public comment. Right now, cannabis is only partially decriminalized in Israel, with a sliding scale of punishment based on how many offenses a person commits. But the new plan aims to drop that punishment to justify and protect all cannabis users from criminal prosecution, including those who already have a marijuana-related offense on their record. A progressive and favorable move from the Justice Minister. And with more from the global world of weed, let's travel over to Europe and check in with Stephen Arthur George.
I'm Stephen Arthur George from CAI Advisors in Lisbon, Portugal. This is the European Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. India's Dr. Reddy wants a part of the European cannabis industry. Dr. Reddy announced they would be acquiring German-based Sunnabis Health. They see cannabis-based medicines as a promising treatment moving forward. Medical cannabis is not legal in India, and that seems to be why they're taking up this opportunity in Europe. Also in Europe, Greece reports highest cannabis usage during pandemic. New reports say that Athens is among the top 5 highest cannabis consumption cities in all of Europe. Similar to other EU countries, Greece saw a rise in consumption during the pandemic. Ironically, they also saw more consumption throughout the winter months than in the summer months. Up in the UK, cannabis turns the lights out. The UK police have seen a rise in illegal cannabis cultivation over the past year. On top of that, in some areas, they are stealing electricity to turn the lights on. This has gotten the public involved due to frequent power outages, and they are not happy. That's the European Cannabis Report. I'm Stephen Arthur George from CAI Advisors reporting for Weed Talk News.
And finally, get ready to fly high. Yes, the world's very first in-airport cannabis store may be coming to Canada. This week, the Prince George City Council in British Columbia voted in favor of the store's land use application, and the retail company, Copilot, says they're ready to take off by summer. Company officials say their potential customer base includes people looking to pick up bud before arriving to their final destination in BC, as well as curious travelers who might not normally take a trip to the dispensary. Co-pilot also told the city council it's planning a designated cannabis consumption space in the airport, which could really change the game globally when it comes to getting high. It's another reminder that it's a whole new world of weed out there, so use it wisely. And that's it for Weed Talk News this week. I'm Elena Pinto for Pro Cannabis Media.
Weed Talk and In the Weeds are two productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first.
Difference is building a solution for that individual. Not just a custom, here's a box, here's a video, here's how you make your VMS. We custom design and custom build every situation for exactly what the customer needs. And we keep the cost low. We have multiple tiers, as far as what you're looking at on the cost side of things. If you want a one-time, where you just pay one initial cost, we have that. If you want to maintain your system and have the highest protection and highest capabilities and highest upgrades at all times, we have different plans for you. But we scale it so it's scalable and affordable 100%.
Pro Cannabis Media programming is available live and on demand on our Facebook page at Pro Canna Media, on Instagram at Pro Cannabis Media, on LinkedIn also at Pro Cannabis Media, on YouTube and YouTube Live on Pro Cannabis Media, Twitter at Pro Canna Media, and on twitch.tv/Pro Cannabis Media. So like, share, and subscribe to all of our content, newsletters, and shows live or on demand.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.